What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. Week 1 of the Major 2 qualifiers completed on Sunday. I'm going to do this video probably like every week after the qualifiers, at least for Major 2, and then we'll go from there. Kind of breaking down sort of 5 talking points, sort of key topics I have from the weekend. So let's dive in, and actually this video is well timed because there's some news with the first one, so let's get into it. All right, so my first point, unfortunately, we got to talk about the team right now that I think is sitting all the way at the bottom, and that's the London Royal Ravens. This is their breaking point stats page. Shout out to the boys at Breaking Point for this one. Basically, London's on a 7-game slide. They had 2 matches this last weekend against Toronto and Minnesota. They looked completely uncompetitive in the Toronto series, and in Minnesota, they went up 2-1. We'll get to Minnesota a little bit later on this video, but then they got reverse swept. And I'm just telling you, like, the stats, like, we could sit here and talk about the stats like they're ugly. I think Asim's obviously been a bright spot. And, you know, honestly, I'll say this, is if we look at Nasty's kind of overall numbers, engagements, kills, his S&D numbers are actually not that bad. I scroll down so you can see them. I actually don't think Nasty's playing that poor outside of control. I think he's a little lost in that game mode. But outside of that, I actually think their sub duo is not that bad. I think the weakness is a lot of top teams right now. If you look at how their teams are built, is their ARs are very good. They usually have like a veteran, sort of slower AR player. Some of them do, some of them don't on that front, but what they all have in common is an elite flex player who's a massive game changer, takeover player, and this team right now does not have that. So to me, it's not surprised that overnight Trey was streaming and revealed that unfortunately he has been benched. Paul X is coming back in, and Trey's actually going to go play in Challengers. Trey's actually apparently going to run a sub on his Challengers team, so we'll go ahead and see what team he's playing with there. But I think for London, it's just like them trying to throw stuff at a wall and see what sticks. It's a weird situation with them, man. Like, I don't see sort of a clear plan on what they were trying to do. This year, I think getting Asim from LAG was probably a great victory on their end, kind of falling in their lap. But, you know, with all these rumors behind the scenes about Harry and Gizmo coming in, it's a little confusing that Dave Wharton's picked up in the offseason or had their contracts continued, and now they're entertaining bringing them back. I just don't know what's going on. They've got some time, I guess, to figure it out, but right now they're sitting rock bottom. It's not looking good going forward, and hopefully they can figure it out, because they're probably they're like the one team in the 12 that I think right now is probably not going to make it to champs, but let's see. Well, switching gears, let's talk about a team that's on a little bit of an upswing now that they've kind of gotten past some of their roster change stuff, and that is OpTic Texas. Obviously had a very good victory against the Boston Breach on Sunday in Game 5. We're watching Map 2 right now, and this is to really kind of talk about, I think, the things they got to work on now. I think first thing is, you know, obviously, Scump is now retired, so although he did play in this game and beat Zen and all that, they brought Dashi back, so the lineup has changed and probably be like that at least for a while. I think their biggest weakness is really searches. We're watching this embassy right now. You know, Boston's really able to take this match pretty cleanly. OpTic just don't have a feel in search, and I don't think it's a talent problem for them. I think it's just reps. They're just an under-practiced team. They haven't played search a lot. Now they've gotten past all these roster changes. They can start really building this pool, getting good at the maps they play, playing other maps, because they've only played like 3 of the 5 maps in S&D. I think also they got a little bit of an expansion work to do in hardpoint on their map pool, and they need to get a little bit more form and control. But I think all of these come down to the same issue. They just got to play more. So I think expect this team to be decent at Major 2. I don't think they're going to be world beaters. I don't think they're going to walk in and win. I think it would be, you know, I wouldn't be like mega shocked if it happened. No one saw LAG winning Major 2 last year. I just think with sort of how the market and sort of the field is right now, I think their best con is probably going to come at the beginning of the spring, probably in front of the home crowd at Major 3. And this gets us to our next team, the Boston Breach. Are they good? Because I really don't know what to think of this team, man. They probably should have won this series. Apparently they're amazing in scrims, and we see it oftentimes when they play. Like, these guys play with a lot of swagger and pace, but the minute they've kind of get an adverse situation, it all kind of crumbles away. I think we're watching the search right now. This is Game 5, and just look how they're setting up on defense. Not watching middle map, and as you know, I kind of talked through this. If you want to go back and watch the VOD, you'll see this so shook at middle map against OpTic, because the sniper, and they just don't think critically on how to counter strat. And so, you know, this might be a team that's really good at executing plan A, but they lack the skills, they lack the fortitude to really be a plan B, plan C team like we see Toronto, like we see FaZe. We know these teams can counter adjust over the years. This Boston team's either got to learn to do it, or they're just going to be like we've seen with a lot of teams over the years. They're going to make it to a couple of Sundays, but that's really their ceiling, and they're never going to be an elite team. I think the jury's still out on Boston. I will say the nice thing for them is if they want to make a roster change, I think Beans could be a bit of fresh air for the squad. I just don't know how quick they're going to turn that over. But yeah, this OpTic match was a warning sign for them. I don't think they're in the elite combo or anywhere close. They yet to have that signature win. And FaZe beating them in the first match of the series does not count. So don't hit me in the comments with that. That is just variance at the beginning of the season. Another team that I have a question about, are they a top team or not, is ROKKR, who made a lot of big money moves in the offseason. And then they had a top 8 placing at Major 1. And they had a pretty weird week. Boston, who we just talked about, absolutely cooked these guys in their first match. The team had dinner or lunch or something, and they got food poisoning, according to Attach and a few other players on the team. And they played London later on the weekend, went down 0-2, and then reverse swept. So I don't really know what to think of this team now. Is if we go by map or sort of game rather within a series, this team is really, really bad in the first 2 maps of a given series. In 11 series so far, 3-8 in game 1s and 4-7 in game 2s. That's just not going to cut it. If you want to be an elite team, you got to be winning 40-50% of those maps. You cannot be going down 0-2 as good as they have been in control this season. You're going to play a team like a FaZe or Toronto or Seattle or New York, someone that is very, very good. And what they're going to do is they're going to close you out 3-0. Like Boston did to them earlier on that weekend. So I think that ROKKR really need to figure that out. Let's look at the 3 teams that they have left to play. They've got to play FaZe, LAG, and Seattle. FaZe obviously are an old tool team, and I know that their hardpoint numbers are around 50%, but they're gonna play really well in that series. Like, I'm not really worried about FaZe showing up. So ROKKR's got some work to do there. LAG are 4-0 so far in hardpoints with their new team. They look like one of the better hardpoint teams potentially right now in Major 2. So if you're ROKKR, you got to figure that out as well. There's opportunity in that series because unfortunately, as good as LAG's been in the hard points, they've been not so good with their new team in search so far. And the same thing with Seattle, very good in respawn, opportunity in search for ROKKR. So if they can improve the starts of their series, I could see them potentially getting 2, maybe 3 wins from the rest of these matches they have in Major 2. So let's see where ROKKR can net out. Again, it's really tight, and we'll kind of give you some more data at the end of this about how tight it is amongst like the 11 competitive teams in the league. But ROKKR got to figure out their early series woes if they want to be a good, not a mid-pack team. Another team of the 3 that I wanted to talk about that I'm not sure if they're good or not, is Thieves. And I actually think that they are, on paper, probably a good team. But right now, they are getting in a lot of trouble in 2 modes. It's a little weird because hardpoint, they're actually like not terrible. I just think their biggest hardpoint right now is they're just not winning a lot of singles. I think once they start winning singles, they're going to start botting teams in this game mode. I think the huge problem for them at the moment is search. They're 5-8 in S&D so far this season. You see the numbers. They are not very, very good. And I actually want to highlight in particular a couple of things about their search and why I think they're getting in a lot of trouble right now. You see them here near the bottom. Overall on teams in S&D, 52% they're winning first bloods, which is not that bad. That's actually, I think, above average in the league. The 67% first blood win percentage is not good. This is the same problem that we saw with this team at the beginning of last year, which is that at the end of the day, they are losing a lot of situationals, losing a lot of 4v3s. And we can scroll over, especially when we talk about offense with this team. Like, they are doing a good job getting first blood in the majority of the rounds, but we're only winning 68% of those. That's not ideal. We're also not winning a lot of our plants. We're at 60%. We planted 41 times so far this season if you're Thieves. 125 of those. They're not doing a good job in their S&E situationals. So I think, that's why I don't think this team is that bad, because I think these are all solvable problems. A lot with reps, practice, just kind of understanding how you want to play. We had a pro on, and I don't remember who it was. Some of the comments maybe can point it out when we were doing our watch parties that said, Thieves might just be a slow learning S&D team, and that's why they're having a problem to begin this season. But look, I'm not worried about this team near the back end of the season. Once they figure out, I think, those 2 key issues, they're going to be flying and making it to a lot of Sundays and potentially winning some events this year. I think the last thing I want to talk about, and this is something we're going to visit over the course of the season, is how much more competitive the CDL has gotten now. If we take a look, or were to take a look at the Cold War season, it's like a big split once you get past top 6. Like there were clearly good teams, teams that were like and teams that were really bad. Last year, it was pretty even across the board, and there were about like 10 teams vying for 8 spots. This year, it might be 11, at least at the moment, because I think LAG actually with this new change is going to be pretty decent. And Florida, as like mid as they are, especially in Respawn, like they're such an elite search team that they're always going to have a chance. Vegas, obviously, we've talked about quite a bit on some of these videos. Like they've solved a lot of their problems and they're a decent squad. It's really just London right now that I think is just a team that doesn't really have a win condition. So we're sitting up for a really crazy start to the season. Like I think with the way that the points were overhauled last year in terms of reducing the haul when you get to land and making it so that the final events of the season really mattered for a lot of teams. I think once again, we're going to pull up to Major 4 and Major 5, and those events are going to be critical. You're probably going to have a number of teams vying for those 6th, 7th, 8th spots in champs in order to lock it in. So I'm really excited to see that. I think another really good stat we can take a look at is really when we go to hardpoint. You see right now, it's pretty even across the board. Win percentage is obviously a couple of really bad teams in hardpoint right now. It's about 3 of them. Although again, I think ROKKR, this is mostly because they suck at game 1. And you see the leaders right now are around 60%, which is pretty high, but this is a small sample size. For reference, if we want to go ahead and take a look at the numbers from last year, you see actually was pretty even across the board. You're sort of a more, your sort of better hardpoint teams are around this sort of 55, 56 number. And for reference, this is Cold War year, and you see that it's a big drop up after FaZe and Empire. So, you know, there's a lot to take away from this. Cold War is definitely a more controllable game than Vanguard was. So you could say, well, with Vanguard, is this because the game kind of sucked or because the teams got better? I think it's probably a little bit of both. Then this year, I think it's a little bit more controllable than Vanguard, but I still think across the board, the teams have gotten way better, even since last year. And so I expect, again, to see very few teams sit around the 60% win percentage. Where teams are going to pull away, I think is going to be in search. We got to scroll over here so you can see the overalls, but I expect your top teams to be in the 60s in S&D. And I think that's where series are going to be won this year because Respawn is such a toss-up. Game 3 is a swing mode. You might get off to a hot start, and then team will force you to 5. The teams that can go ahead and pull up to game 5, be confident in their S&D strats, I think are going to do very well this year. And if you're like Florida and you're bunt to hardpoint, well, the S&D might save you and keep you competitive this year while you figure out your team chemistry. But yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts kind of after the first week of matches. I'm really excited for some of the stuff we have coming up next week, and we'll be putting out more videos this week breaking down the matches that you have in front of you coming up for week 2. Let me know in the comments what you think about some of these points, if you agree or disagree. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more, and as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.